who I am. I gotta stand still. I'm Arvo Prima. I'm one of the co-founders of Hope Sheds Light. Currently, our staff is in Florida in a conference for professionals attending workshops, seminars for the new recovery center that we opened. Hopefully, they're going to get a lot of valuable information there, and they're going to bring it all home to us. And Hope Sheds Light's going to be better for that. Are there newcomers here, or are there people that have not been here before? Welcome. Really nice to see you here. Do you know anything about Hope Sheds Light, what we do?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. So I have this little thing they gave us to read, so I'll read some of this and we'll go from there. So tonight is our Finding Hope group, and we welcome our Facebook friends, and we're grateful that everybody's here. Hope Sheds Light is a family-focused, non-for-profit agency that offers education, resources, support, and hope to everyone who is affected by addiction. Our mission of Hope Sheds Light is to raise awareness and educate families and the community about the impact of addiction by having the courage to share personal experiences, offer strength, wisdom, and resources that lead to a positive community change and long-term recovery. We've been around for about 5 or 6 years. We're growing leaps and bounds. They didn't say that here, but it's happening, and it's because of you people here and your courage to come and share your stories with us that we're able to do that. Tonight is our Finally Hope meeting. We meet the second and fourth Tuesday, and we focus on an educational piece for the first half, which we have a speaker here tonight that will do that. And in the second half, we break into small groups. The Finding Recovery meetings are at our Hope Sheds Light office on 253 Chestnut Street, which is like a mile or two from here. We meet, the first and third Tuesday of the month. That group is more of a topic-driven group. For those of you that haven't been to that, it's a little bit more recovery-driven, and I think you'll get a lot from it coming and listening, even if you don't feel like participating. We also have personal one-on-one recovery coaching, 24/7 talk chat, or text resources. We also have a grief bereavement group called Healing Hearts that meets 6 o'clock on Thursday at our Hope office. We're here for you, we're here to serve you, and we're absolutely thrilled that you guys keep coming back. Tonight, we're lucky to have Paul Hulse. He's our speaker. So I have a little bit of bio, and then I'll introduce Paul. So in 2011, Paul Hulse established Beat the Streets, Inc. in Florida to address issues which homeless encounter that prevent them from finding housing. 2011, Paul brought Beat the Street to New Jersey, where he continued to feed the marginalized and partnered with Toms River Community Church to help the homeless. In March 2013, unfortunately, his brother-in-law died from a heroin overdose. Paul turned to grief share work through his grief, where he met Valerie Jeff from the First Assembly of God Church. It was in the grief share with Valerie and Jeff where Paul's vision on how to beat the streets could assist homeless and disenfranchised was reborn. In this regard, 2013-2014, in conjunction with Solutions to End Poverty Soon and Haven Beat the Streets, moved 68 people that had vouchers for 12 months for free housing out of the woods and into their apartments, while also providing furniture, toiletries, etc. Beat the Street, Haven, and Steps also assisted 27 individuals that did not have vouchers to get out of the woods. In addition, in 6 months, 2014-2015, the Township of Toms River, Beat the Street, Haven, and Steps moved another 14 people out of the woods in a hotel in Lakewood. While assisting these at-risk individuals, Paul met Bill Santry?
Bill Santry, yep.
And as a result, they formed a new organization called Haven Beat the Street, Inc. Paul and his staff and his volunteers spearheaded and will remain a primary resource for Ocean County Code Blue Emergency Shelter Initiative. In fact, his work has directly inspired the Township of Toms River to change the Code Blue parameters that trigger temperatures that were 32 to 35 degrees. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that was great. We were able to do that. And that initiative actually was brought to the the state senate, which had passed, and now it's in the assembly.
Correct.
So that was a big deal.
Yes.
And we welcome Paul.
Good evening, everybody. First off, thank you, Hope Sheds Light, for inviting me here to share, first off, what I do, a little bit about the bio, and to kind of clean up what I actually do. So, starting off with Code Blue is a program in Ocean County to help the homeless and disenfranchised. As we know, Ocean County has no true homeless shelter in our county. We run a program here in Toms River that helps individuals. It's actually active right now. As we speak, we have 20 people that are inside from the cold tonight and housing the individuals. As they're coming into the program, Hope Sheds Light, Village Resources, other social service programs come into the facility, and we try to connect them into service, whether it's rehab, mental health services, or just getting like social service, or trying to plug them into Oxford houses if they're coming through recovery. Whatever the need is, we try to meet that need. So it's a great program, and we've been very successful, as he was touching on a little bit. 2017, 2018 is when we started this program, and as he said, Toms River took a liking to what we were doing, and we started in 2 churches, as you guys are here, and we moved into now the Riverwood Rec Building, which is 5,500 square feet. So it was a huge accomplishment to just step from starting in churches to move into the bigger building. As I was thinking about that accomplishment, and also what he was talking about in the bio earlier, every time I hear about my brother-in-law or my sister, they actually lost both in a 6-month span. So it was really hard. And when it's brought up, sometimes it impacts me a little bit, so I apologize for that. My brother-in-law, they found him March 21st. They found him in the Red Roof Inn. He overdosed on heroin, and on October 11th of the same year, I watched my sister take her last breath. So it was a very, very hard time for me, and even a hard time to talk about it. Being someone that grew up in addiction myself, at 13 years old, I started doing drugs. I was introduced to marijuana, and by age 16, I was a full-blown drug addict. Through a long time process of going through not wanting to live, I guess, or not wanting to, just looking for acceptance, I struggled until I was about 26 years old. I thought maybe having kids would help. That didn't help. I had 2 kids, and I said maybe if we moved to Florida, that'll help. So I moved, and unfortunately when I moved, you bring you with you. That didn't change. So my wife saw that I was still spiraling out of control today, and she said I didn't move 1,100 miles to be with the same person that I was with up in New Jersey. So it was real. It was real that time, and I knew I had to change. So I was an atheist, I went into the garage and I put on a song by Brooks and Dunn. It's called Believe. And I cried out to a God I didn't believe in. And I heard go to church twice. First time I heard it, I thought I was like, oh man, I must be really wasted. But then I heard it again. And I walked through the doors of a church kind of like this. It was a Lutheran church in Florida. And my life started changing. I accepted Jesus. And things started peeling away. It wasn't like as soon as I became a Christian, I was fixed. It was a process. I still had layers to go through of anger, the addiction piece, codependency. There were some millions and millions of things that I was dealing with. And through that process, going through God, it helped me. So here I stand because of what God was able to help me with And I can't be thankful enough of that, to be here today and just share that part with you. I kind of know I bounce around a lot, but I just felt led to talk to you about that piece because I think it's important to understand me and what I've been through to be able to help the people that I help today. It's a very challenging thing when you're working with people that are in recovery, or trying to get into recovery. Yesterday, one of the guys that was in our shelter a year ago, he came back. He got my card. He was out in training. He was running and gunning. Still running, doing everything he's not supposed to be doing. And it wound up in his pocket. And he called me from Community Medical Center on Saturday. And he said, "Hey, Paul, can you help me?" And I said, "Yeah, no problem." We went over, we picked him up. And as we do, I just talked to him for a minute. And I said, "You ever think about maybe going into like rehab or detox, dude?" And then I kind of backed off, after the conversation. And a few minutes later, he came back to me and he goes, "I really think I should go into rehab or detox." And I said, "Yeah, that's a good idea." So we sat down with one of the people that work with our organization, and yesterday we were able to bring him up to Bergen and start that process. So it's amazing to be able to do that, and what it does for me. It reminds me of what I came through. It still keeps that wound fresh. That reminds me that I was there once. I understand what he's been through or what he's going through and how I can help him get to that next place. And that's what I'm thankful for, that I could stand here to say that 14 years now I am drug free. So I think that's a huge accomplishment. As far as the agency, Just Believe. Just Believe is a new agency we just started. Once I left Haven Beat the Streets, I started a new organization just this year in August. It's called Just Believe. And the name was inspired, obviously, by that song, Believe. And I really felt that we wanted to be more focused here in Toms River in Ocean County, knowing that there's a lot of addiction issues, but there's also a homeless issue. And, sometimes that comes hand in hand. You'll have addiction and you have homelessness. And I felt it was a great fit with the name and also in what we were trying to accomplish here with doing the work that we do. So as of this year, starting off, we've gotten 3 people permanently housed. We got one guy waiting. He actually got accepted today to go into sober living. And we got the one guy that went to detox. So I think that's pretty good to start off for 2019, 2020 to help impact the community. And that's exactly what we want to do, is try to make Ocean County a better place for all of us to live. And Hope Shed Light's been a big part of us last year coming in. We got a couple people into Oxford houses and different things that I did with Heather. And if she's watching, hi. And it was truly inspiring to just do what I'm doing. I don't know if I have much else to talk about, but I know they gave me a long time, 30 minutes to talk, but I'm not a big talker. I'm more of an action guy, and I like to come from the hip and the heart because it makes it more real. So I guess I'll leave it to you guys because I feel some of you may have questions, and I may have an answer or maybe even a shed of hope to somebody that might have a thought, say, hey, what if we do this or what if we can do that, and maybe I can help.
Could you just give maybe a little bit of a summary of the homeless people that you help in the Code Blue program? I mean, do you find that the homeless people, is it always drug or alcohol related, or is it circumstance? And then how does your program, obviously you keep them warm and help them, but how do you help them after that?
Sure. So substance abuse is a common thing, but it's not always the common thing. Statistically, last year we got 23 people into rehabilitation and detox. That was for mental health issues, that was for drug addiction, and that was the main focus for that. Again, social service issues, so sometimes someone comes in and they don't understand the barriers of the social service, so they're coming, they're stressed out, they have this list. We'll run through that list with them, help them get through it so that they understand it and make sure they get the documents they need. That's a big point of what we do. And what else? Thinking of we in the center itself. So when they first come in, just to give you a rundown of what it's like. So when someone first comes into the center, if they're agitated or they're uneasy, I won't do an intake with them. I'll make sure they got a cup of coffee. That's what we teach our volunteers. Let's make people comfortable first, because first thing is they're coming in, they hear that they think shelter, blah, blah, blah. They come in very uneasy, and we try to get them to kind of pull back a little bit. So that's our first approach. Once we get that part done, then we'll do our assessment. So we run through layers of questions, and once we run through those layers of questions, they fill out a clothing sheet. So whatever clothes they need, we have clothes there. We fill out and make sure that any clothes they need, no matter what it is, we provide that need right off the bat. Once that part's done, we show them where the sleeping quarters is downstairs and to their cot area, and then we have a common area upstairs. So we have a full buffet. They eat as much as they want, when they want. We try to make it homey. We found that making it homey helps for people to be more adaptive to speak to you. That's one of the things I like to create less barriers. That's one of the things that I always find is there's so many barriers that people run into, and we create a way that it's less barriers so that people do communicate with you. So we have a pool table, we have ping pong, we have a TV area. So when they come in, it feels like home. They're like, oh, can I go in the fridge? I'm like, yeah, go get it. That's why it's there. It's a fridge, They can go in any time after the 5 to 9 is done. So if they're still hungry after, they can go in and make their own thing. We have microwaves. They can go right in and boom. Like I said, we try to make it homey because people aren't going to talk to you if they're uptight. That's one thing I've learned. Like if somebody's always edgy, they're never going to relax, and you're never going to get anything out of them. So we learn to create that kind of environment, and that's why I think we've been so successful with getting people into the rehabilitation and housing. Through Code Blue housing permanently, we were able to house 34 people permanently into housing, and we did 1,730 bed nights, 2018, 2019. That's how many times people seek refuge into our center. 170 people actually came in through that 5-month period. And we're not open every day, so we're only open when the weather allows us to. So imagine if we were running 365 days a year, how many more people we can truly help, and that's really what it is. Did I touch most of the questions on you?
How about your funding? How does that come?
Sure, so right now, being that we're a new organization, we're relying a lot on faith. Believe it or not. I believe that God called me to this ministry, to this organization, and to this calling, this vision. And I believe that God made a way for me to be here. So I know that He's going to make a way for that funding to come in. So we're funded privately. We can't go after grants yet because our nonprofit's brand new. So that's kind of been a little bit of a hindrance. So we've been doing family and friends and asking local churches to help support us so we can keep going. And that's kind of how we're funded.
Volunteers, how do you get help?
So the volunteers, actually, we work with 40 different churches in the community, in the organizations throughout Ocean County. We have 175 volunteers that help us, which has really, really been awesome. And new people come in all the time because they hear about it. And then they're like, oh, I want to get involved because it's a place where sometimes you can heal a wound, and if you're hurting and you're trying to figure out how can I help? What can I do to make that wound better? Like losing my brother and losing my sister. you know, when I saw the guy go to rehab today, that was like, yes, I got one. You know, and that's what it does. You know, when you get that opportunity, you know, does it mean guarantee that it's going to be 100%? He's going to come out and everything's going to be great? No, but it was an opportunity. Recovery started. You know, and that's one of the things that I've learned is when they start to turn to recovery, that means that the process has started. And I'm not an expert at it for sure, but I really feel that it's beneficial when someone is ready to say yes. And when they're ready to say yes, we try to go on that yes and run to the first place we can get them connected into. That's why we'll go all over the state. We don't, no matter where it is, we're ready to drive all the way to Connecticut if we have to make sure that somebody's getting into rehab. Whether we got to put them in a plane, we're going to get them to try to get them into treatment. You know, whatever that looks like. You know, we find a way. So.
Well, I got a couple more, but maybe someone else has got something.
Sure. I'm open for any questions. Yeah, go ahead.
I was curious what your outreach is like. How do people really find you? Or is it just people on the streets or social media?
So we work with the government agencies. So we work with Ocean County Human Services. We work with Social Service. A lot of the agencies learned about our organization by the work that we were doing. So it was really the churches that kind of helped get the ball rolling. And then by the churches clinging on to what we've been doing, that helped other people to partner in. So it's really been that way. As far as our outreach, I go out to Kensington, Philadelphia. I go right on Last Stop. I've been there over the last 2 years. And we go out there and we try to get people locked into detox. I work with a few different ministries. And we go there. We also go to Atlantic City in certain areas, you know, where most people won't go. That's where we go. And the reason I go there is because we want to bring hope. And we know that there's an opportunity to hopefully get somebody locked in and say, hey, you know what, I don't want this life no more. And we try to be the arms and feet of Jesus, as we say, so to speak.
So I understand you say it's a calling.
Sure.
When, say, God was calling, how did you come to that decision versus haggling with other career choices?
Well, what happened was I actually was in a major motor vehicle accident December 6, 2012, which I lost the brakes on my work vehicle, and I was no longer able to do my original career. So I can no longer be a plumber anymore because of my injuries, the extent of my injuries, and then the opportunity to do this work arose. So I kind of just slid right into the seat through that process was because of what happened to me. Sure.
My question is similar. What do you do to get somebody to actually admit that they have a problem and get them to want to have help? Is there any, I mean, it just seems so hard for me to get my daughter to like admit to me that she's doing drugs.
Sure.
I can, you know, it's obvious, and
Right.
also like she keeps falling lower, and it just doesn't sink in that she has a problem.
I think a lot of it has to do with pride. You know, we have pride in our decision making, and when I was an active user, one of my things is I would try to hide it, and I'd be like, no, I'm good. You know, I'm not. You know, there's nothing going on. I'm meanwhile, I'm falling all over the place. You know, so I think a lot of times it's really pride, and they have to come to the end of themselves. We can't be forced into changing our lives. We have to make a decision in what we want to do. And I think really the best thing we can do is just love through the process. You know, that's one of the things that I do. I'm not focused so much on the symptom. I'm trying to focus more on what's going on and how do I help them through it. So I'm looking more at the whole picture of it. Okay, I know there's an issue. I know they have an addiction issue. But how do I reach that? So I talked about other things. And that's kind of how it's worked for me. And I think that's why we've been semi-successful at it. I don't think I'm a huge successor at all. But I think that's what's been successful. It's also my experience. I've done interventions. I've done for families where they have asked me to come and talk to their child. And I don't go in as the advocate to be like, oh, well, you got a drug problem. We go out to eat, we start hanging out, we build a relationship. And then trust is built. And then conversations happen. And then I talk about things. And then they're like, oh, well, I want that. Well, okay, cool. And then you start building that bridge. So trust is a big thing, you know. If they don't have trust, there's definitely going to always be that wall. If that answers your question.
So back to my question,
Sure.
and you can share on this if you're comfortable, if you're not, I understand. So you made a decision that you wanted to be sober and drug-free.
Yes.
So the next steps, I mean, because like my program of recovery is, the 12 steps and, that. But I know there's all types of recovery out there for everybody.
My recovery was through the body of Christ. I didn't go to rehab. I didn't go, I don't know if it's a unique thing. I don't know. I don't know what God did to help me to get to where I'm at, to where I don't have a desire. Nothing. It's not there. My desire is to be there for my family and my kids. My desire is to help people. It was a miracle. That's the only thing I can say. So for me to stand here today, and people that seen me and knew me from back then, and they're like, "You're a pastor?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "No way. You are a pastor. You are someone that's helping people out of recovery into recovery." And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "No way." But that's what God can do. I mean, that's from my experience, I can only say. But
Yeah, I mean, and the 12 steps of recovery, the last step is you give it back to keep it. You got lucky, you didn't have to do all that grind, but do you believe that by giving it back, you're able to keep it?
I believe that, I believe that, like I said about the wound, I don't ever want to close. I don't want to ever forget where I came from. I don't want to ever forget, what I was doing to my body, what I was doing to my family, what I was doing to my wife, what I was doing to my kids. I don't want to ever forget that. I want them to be able to prosper, and I want them to have a good life, and I want to be there as a good dad. So I think that's what keeps me going. That's my inspiration.
That's a great. Anybody else? Well, we thank you for coming.
Yep.
And for those of you that have been with us, you know now we break into our groups.